This is your reality check.
Welcome to The Reality Check, the weekly Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. Today is August 4th, and I'm producer Pat. Adam's in the middle of a move, so the rest of the crew has got this week off. But fear not, we come to you with a Mashup episode. This is where I play DJ and bring you 3 segments based on a theme. The way I chose today's theme is interesting. Well, it's interesting to me. I've been having a back and forth with friend of the show, Dr. Stu Fairmont, about coming on as a guest. He has a book out called The Science of Cooking. And so I was looking at segments we've done about food and drink. And we've done a lot of them. So much so that we'll probably do mashups in the future on various related themes. But what I chose for today was 3 segments about food labels. So we start off with Cristina from back on episode 345, where she was talking about food labeling in general.
Like many of you listening to our podcast, I've done my fair share of grocery shopping, and it's been interesting to see how the marketing of food products has evolved to keep up with our health-crazy times. Pat and I make a habit of checking nutrition facts and ingredients on food labels, and I've come to learn that the front of packaging health claims are for the most part clever marketing gotchas designed to influence me.
What?
I know, right?
But what about the green check and the little stars?
Back in episode 207, Elon tackled unsubstantiated health claims made by Palm Wonderful about its pomegranate juice. But he really only scratched the surface of a growing trend. You've probably noticed more and more products in the food aisle have labels purporting health benefits. But thankfully, medical and nutrition experts are stepping in and calling the company's bluff when it goes too far. In February 2012, my current favorite consumer watchdog CBC's Marketplace ran a story titled 10 Misleading Food Product Labels in Canada, which I reference a fair amount. Since some lawsuits related to misleading labeling have only just been settled, it's kind of popping back up in the news again, so. Okay, so package labeling can probably be split up in a couple of categories. There's companies that promote all-natural, quote-unquote, ingredients or advertise the presence of valuable vitamins and minerals in their food products. Then there's companies whose messaging is not anchored in the supposed good stuff the food contains, but instead focuses on the missing stuff, the missing supposed bad stuff. An example would be labeling that emphasizes the absence of certain preservatives perceived to be linked to illness or disease. So things like no artificial coloring or flavoring or no MSG, etc. Other companies claim their product can help boost your immunity or somehow make you smarter, better, faster, stronger. So Marketplace elicited the help of one of TRC's favorite experts on nutrition and friend of the show, Dr. Yoni Friedhoff. He helps Marketplace examine and debunk several claims found on food packaging here in Canada. So here's a few examples. Danone's DanActive. Let's start with yogurt maker Danone, who promoted its DanActive product as a, quote, daily pick-me-up probiotic drink to help strengthen your natural defenses. The company also marketed its super popular brand Activia as helping regulate digestion. The company goes as far as saying its claims were scientifically proven. Well... A class action suit was launched in Canada in 2009 challenging the health claims made about the 2 products. The company agreed to a settlement which involved paying out $1.7 million, so roughly $15 to $50 per consumer, who purchased the products between the time frame cited in the lawsuit. Danone denied any wrongdoing, but agreed to reword the labels on its products. A spokeswoman for the company named Anne-Julie Malte said phrasing such as clinically proven would be replaced with more broad-based claims, like clinical studies show, and be followed with the caveat as part of a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle.
Oh, I hate that. That's when they show you the crappy cereal with like caveat. 7 other things.
Yeah. This isn't the first time the company came under criticism for its labeling practices, by the way. In 2009, the U.S. subsidiary agreed to pay $35 million U.S. for claiming that its product helped prevent colds and flu without any proof.
Wow.
Although the company again denied any misrepresentation, they agreed to modify the labels to downplay certain health claims.
Look, we didn't really do anything wrong. Yeah. We're just going to change stuff and give it lots of money.
Yeah, so that you leave us alone.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Terrible.
Kraft Canada's KD Smart. So KD is the affectionate short form, at least in Canada, and I suspect in the U.S., for Kraft Dinner, a popular macaroni and cheese in a box product.
I believe Americans don't even call it Kraft Dinner. They just call it, like, macaroni and cheese.
Mac and cheese, maybe?
Mac and cheese.
If you're an American, please write in.
And that's why Terrence and Philip kept going on about Kraft Dinner. It was like...
And if you're from somewhere else in the world, don't you have Kraft Dinner or not?
And this hard-hitting journalism about what they call Kraft Dinner around the world, I think is very important.
Future segment.
Yeah. So Katie Smart is a more expensive version of regular Kraft Dinner mac and cheese and is supposedly healthier with no artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. So one of their print ads illustrates the shape of a cauliflower made out of macaroni and cheese with the phrase, "introducing cauliflower that tastes like KD." Friedhoff actually has a great article on his blog, Weighty Matters, WEIGHTY, titled Badvertising. Katie Smart thinks you are KD stupid. It breaks down the specific claim that there's half a serving of vegetables per serving of Katie Smart. So half a serving would be a quarter cup based on our food guide serving of half a cup. This is a far cry from Friedhoff's quick analysis, which suggests you're really only getting a total of 12.6 grams, which is just under half an ounce of cauliflower per serving.
Oh, it's not even close.
The line of Katie Smart products also include a version with omega-3, a fatty acid that has been linked to brain and heart benefits. However, according to Friedhoff, the studies on omega-3 show that there is benefit to the consumption of fish-based omega-3, but those same studies show that there's not the same benefit with the plant-based stuff. Okay, so just for fun, no pressure, how many servings of KD Smart do you guys think it takes to ingest the same amount of omega-3 found in just a single piece of fish?
7.
Dozens.
Adam, you want to
30
take a guess?
boxes.
With servings.
Oh, okay. So, 330 boxes.
Okay.
That still doesn't make sense in terms of your answer.
I'm assuming it's 11 servings.
You should have said 120.
Sorry, so it's
servings.
330 servings, yes.
There's probably 2 or 3 servings in a box, or 4 servings.
Oh, I don't know.
So it would take 177 servings of Katie Smart to ingest the same amount of omega-3 found in a single piece of fish.
Adam was actually closest.
Yeah, it was like only double.
1 million. Yeah. All right, so next up, and I guess you can have this with your KD Smart, Oasis Health Break Cholest Prevent Juice. This product used to contain a line on its packaging implying that drinking 2 glasses of juice was equivalent to eating 80 oranges, or I don't even think I can get through this without laughing, or 22 kilograms of broccoli. So, needless to say, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency stepped in and asked the company to take that particular claim off of its packaging. So as for the Cholest Prevent claim, companies are allowed to add plant sterols to their juices or food products in order to make claims referring to cholesterol. Health Canada gave food companies the green light to fortify certain foods with plant sterols a few years back in an effort to help Canadians consume sufficient levels needed to lower cholesterol. Also known as phytosterols, these naturally occurring plant molecules are found in small quantities in various vegetables and fruits and nuts, etc., and are purported to have powerful LDL cholesterol-lowering properties, which in turn may reduce the risk of heart disease. Here's the but. In order to gain any required health benefits, you'd have to literally drink 2 glasses every day, which would have you ingesting more than 1.5 kilograms of sugar every month. So as Friedhoff puts it, if you're worried about your cholesterol, I'm not sure that taking your medicine with sugar is a wise plan. Okay, so you might ask me how this one made it on the list, but Mccain Pizza Pockets. I think the product manager who managed to sell this marketing angle is a veritable Don Draper. At around the time the CBC piece came out, McCain Foods had recently reframed pizza pockets as a healthy food option by highlighting the fact that they are baked, not fried, and are filled with, quote, wholesome ingredients that contain no artificial colors or flavors, according to its website.
Who fries pizza?
Well, let's break down a pizza pocket, shall we? 11 grams of fat, 470 milligrams of sodium. That's all the breaking down I need. So what I read is that's more grams of fat than your average Boston cream donut and more sodium than a large serving of fast food fries.
Wow.
Okay, this is precious. When McCain's was asked their reasoning for promoting pizza pockets as wholesome, a response cited is, consumers told us they wanted food made with real ingredients that are recognizable and pronounceable.
Oh, not that.
Pockets pronounceable.
Oh, wow. Yeah. One glaring example of how misleading product claims can be comes to us courtesy of Kellogg Company. In 2009, Kellogg Company reached an agreement with the U.S. Federal Trade Commission to stop advertising its Frosted Mini-Wheats cereal as some magical brain enhancer that could make kids smarter. The company claimed that giving your kid a bowl of Mini-Wheats would result in a nearly 20% increase in classroom attentiveness.
Wow.
I remember this ad campaign. Do you guys remember that at all?
I do not, but 20%?
Yeah, exactly. Whenever that commercial came on, I was like, 20% compared to what? So I wasn't the only one, and thankfully the FTC stepped in, concerned that Kellogg was not representing the results of the study honestly. Why did they think that? Although Kellogg's national TV ads asserted that attentiveness improved nearly 20% in children who ate the cereal, it failed to mention this was in comparison to kids who skipped breakfast altogether.
I was about to say, who had no food at all, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So last week tonight with John Oliver did a great piece on deceitful labeling practices, and they talked about Palm, Wonderful, and Kellogg. And they mocked up a Mini-Wheats box with a suggestion for a more suitable tagline. Kellogg's Frosted Mini-Wheats, arguably preferable to hunger.
I remember that. That was funny.
That's great.
Furthermore, the ads referred to in the study only found a benefit from eating Mini-Wheats in half the children studied, and only 11% of the children's attention improved 20%, according to the FTC. In an open letter to industry sent March 2010, U.S. FDA Commissioner Dr. Margaret Hamburg outlined new standards for front-of-package labeling. The letter covered a range of concerns about how false or misleading labels can undermine the intention of Congress to provide consumers with labeling information that allows them to make healthy and informed choices. Woohoo! Sounds good so far. Here's a quote from the letter. The letter's pretty long, so I'm just taking an excerpt from it. I have made improving the scientific accuracy and usefulness of food labeling one of my priorities as Commissioner of Food and Drugs. The latest focus in this area, of course, is on information provided on the principal display panel of food packages and commonly referred to as front-of-pack labeling. The use of front-of-pack nutrition symbols and other claims has grown tremendously in recent years, and it is clear to me as a working mother that such information can be helpful to busy shoppers who are often pressed for time in making their food selections. She goes on to say, to address these concerns, FDA is notifying a number of manufacturers that their labels are in violation of the law and subject to legal proceedings to remove misbranded products from the marketplace. She cites a few examples of the types of misleading claims. They include claims that a product is free of trans fats, which imply that the product is a better choice than products without the claim, and can be misleading when a product is high in saturated fat. Products that claim to treat or mitigate disease, which are considered to be drugs and must meet the regulatory requirements for drugs, including the requirement to prove that the product is safe and effective for its intended use. Misleading healthy claims that do not meet the long and well-established definitions for the use of that term. I could literally fill an entire show on this topic, but I'm sure you get the point. Although the FDA continues to propose updates to the nutrition facts label and keeps a watchful eye on misleading food package claims, it's up to us to practice a little due diligence. Many of us even have the internet right in our pocket. So if a claim sounds too good to be true, try a little bit of TRC-inspired research before filling up your grocery cart.
Boom.
Bam.
I really appreciate this because I've consistently been annoyed at, to me, what seems like a public good that should be a no-brainer for political people to put in place. Like, just tell people what's in stuff. And don't let them mislead people with sketchy phrasing, ambiguous words, asterisks. When I was much younger, I'm like, you know what, we should just get rid of the asterisks. Can we just do that and not have small print which contradicts what's said in the large print and make that legal?
The next segment I picked was one of my own. Back on episode 416, that was in September of 2016, I covered Trisodium Phosphate in children's breakfast cereal, which is something that listener Cristina had written into us about a couple of times. So, checker Cristina wrote to us on Facebook back in August with the following. I'm surprised to see that TRC hasn't covered this Trisodium Phosphate in food thing that is making the rounds on the interwebs again. So we thanked her for her suggestion and promptly forgot to cover it. Then she shared a video on the same subject with us last week. The video appears to have been posted in February of this year and has over 2.5 million views. It's of a man who is very concerned because he noticed that several of his kids' breakfast cereals contain Trisodium phosphate. He mentioned that he spent 22 years as a contractor and he used to do surface preparation for painting, and the product that they used for this was Trisodium phosphate, or TSP. He goes on to say that putting such a thing in children's cereal is beyond wrong, and to say that he's upset in the video would be a complete understatement. People talking about TSP in food is not new, though. A Snopes article about this notes that concerns over the scary-sounding ingredient have been circulating on the internet since at least 2010, but they really picked up steam in October 2014 when a picture juxtaposing Lucky Charms with a TSP heavy-duty cleaner started making the rounds. Several headlines on natural news sites go so far as to refer to TSP as a paint thinner, as in this headline from The Organic Prepper, "Paint thinner in children's cereal exposed." So back to the video that Cristina shared. I'm actually kind of sympathetic to this guy. I wish he had done some research before posting, but if we take the video at face value, he's coming from a place of grave concern for his children's health, and he is actually right about a couple things. Number one, TSP is used to prep surfaces for painting, and number two, it's also in his kids' cereal. But TSP is in a lot of things. Processed meats and cheeses, commercial baked goods, canned foods, nutritional supplements, toothpaste, shampoos, mouthwashes, cosmetics, and children's cereal, among other things. So what is it? Drawing from a pretty good article about this by Kevin Klatt, a PhD student in molecular nutrition, Trisodium phosphate is simply a sodium salt of phosphoric acid. It contains 3 sodiums and a phosphoric acid. Trisodium phosphate. It is widely used as an emulsifier and stabilizer in food. It can also be added as an antimicrobial agent, generally in meats. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has given TSP the GRAS, or generally recognized as safe designation. The European Union has approved sodium phosphates, including trisodium phosphate, for use as a food additive, and it's approved by Health Canada for several uses as a food additive. The concerns raised by the gentleman in the video, as well as many of the websites I saw, stem from not recognizing the difference between TSP as a food additive and its industrial uses. First off, it isn't a paint thinner. Generally, when we think of paint thinners, we mean something containing solvents like acetone, turpentine, or mineral spirits. But TSP is quite effective as a cleaner. It's used in degreasing and deglossing walls prior to painting, as the guy in our video suggests. TSP breaks the gloss of oil-based paints and opens the pores of latex-based paints, providing a surface that's better suited for adhesion of a new layer of paint. But as a cleaner, TSP is used in really high concentrations. According to the manufacturer I looked at, anywhere up to a cup of TSP dissolved in water for things like cleaning siding and decks. That's a far cry from the milligrams of TSP found in food items. As Klatt wrote on his blog, quote, "These kind of comparisons, X is in my food, but is also in Y, a non-food substance, do nothing to address safety concerns over food or food additives." He said he could make 1,000 memes showing that formaldehyde is used in everything from wood finishing to paint, but wonders if that would stop people from eating pears because they contain a small amount of formaldehyde. Mm-hmm. So TSP, is it toxic? Well, yeah, virtually everything is toxic at some dose. Water, just like any other substance, can be considered a poison when overconsumed in a specific period of time. It's called water intoxication or hyperhydration. It's worth mentioning that TSP can be bad for the environment as well. If it ends up in lakes or streams, the phosphates trigger an overgrowth of algae that results in depletion of oxygen levels in water, which endangers fish and aquatic plant life. This is something known as eutrophication, and TSP is being used less and less as a cleaning agent for that very reason. But what I really thought was interesting was that several of these video creators and websites focus on the idea that TSP is a cleaning product, and they decry, what are we doing putting cleaning products in our food? The interesting part of that for me is that these are often the same sites that suggest that cleaning products are dangerous, and you should make your own cleaning products that are, quote, natural. Mm-hmm. And what are those made of?
Yeah.
Yeah, can I say, why are we putting our food in cleaning products?
Right.
That seems a bigger question.
Right. So here's another potentially scary-sounding ingredient, sodium bicarbonate. It's used in heavy-duty cleaning as an agent to detarnish silver. It's used to extinguish fires. But try making a batch of cookies without some baking soda.
Oh, it's delicious, some cookies.
Vinegar is also used for cleaning, as is salt, flour, lemons, club soda, rice, grapefruits, cornstarch, and good old water. The idea that we use things to clean that we also ingest really shouldn't be much of a surprise or any cause for concern. I have to wonder if trisodium phosphate would have raised any concerns if it had an alternate name for its use in food like baking soda does.
Yeah.
As we've said so many times here on TRC, the devil is in the dose. And small doses of TSP in kids' breakfast cereals and other food is nothing to worry about. Thanks for writing in, Cristina.
This reminds me of that, I saw it on Penn & Teller's Bullshit, but it actually was in the 90s, a 14-year-old kid did it as a science project. You know, when they did the whole petition against dihydrogen monoxide?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And people signed this petition, and they were saying, this causes corrosion and severe burns and a bunch of other things.
It's in your food.
Yeah, and it's in our food, and it's water. It's
in
H2O.
your body. When a mother drinks it, it hits her child.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically, they gave water an unfamiliar name and then got people to sign a petition saying that it was dangerous based on its corrosiveness and all these things.
Excellent job, Pat. I think you did a great job clearing up what the issue is, and I think every time anyone hears something about a chemical that's supposedly bad, they can just take a step back and think, well, chances are all chemicals can be bad in certain amounts, and maybe this is used in different ways that's safe for me. And just not to think just because it's a chemical or sounds like a chemical, it's automatically bad for you.
You mentioned that you are a bit sympathetic. I have to admit, I'm not so sympathetic. I understand as a parent, you freak out about certain things, but it took me all of 5 minutes to Google this when Cristina posted it on our Facebook and to look at the facts and any evidence and stuff that's out there. So I'm still not completely sympathetic when people post this kind of stuff.
When I say I'm sympathetic, it's because I think he's coming from the right place. But as I said, I really wish he had done some research ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also possible that the reason it was so easy to Google this was because of the reaction spawned by this particular video. So this information may not have been as easily accessible to him prior to putting it together.
And it could be that the first, 4 or 5 entries on Google could have been a pro-con trisodium phosphate.
This looks good.
Exactly.
Boom.
Exactly. So it is easy to Google if you go to the right websites.
What I will say with regard to that, Darren, is there actually isn't a ton of information out there. There's a decently written Snopes article, and there's a decently written blog post, as I mentioned, from this PhD student. Beyond that, there's not a lot of people taking this down.
Well, now we got one more.
Yeah, we got one more.
Boom.
Good job.
The last segment I have for you is from episode 427, where Darren also took on a listener request about what the organic label on food means.
What is organic, or what is organic farming? On December 4th, I posted a video through our Facebook page about organic farming. It was a short video from New Scientist that argued climate labels on food would be useful despite the difficulties of having them. In this way, we would know how many greenhouse gas emissions were involved in the production of our food. The piece takes a strong stance against organic because, the video says, organic requires using more soil to have similar yields as conventional agriculture, and in the tropics that sometimes involves cutting down more rainforest, but mainly because organic is resistant to GM crops, and that's what the video also is concerned about. Aside from some criticisms of the video on our page as propaganda, a listener did write in and asked, what exactly does it mean to say something's organic, and what about the environmental impacts? He recalled that we did do a segment many moons ago, but we didn't exactly address those issues. So I thought we'd look into it, at least part of it. Today, we'll look at what organic is, and then on another show, we might cover the environmental impacts, but we might have to consult a soil ecologist. So if you are one, write in. As Mitchell indicated, on episode 182, I covered organic and showed that organic food can also be sprayed with pesticides, thus removing the idea that organic doesn't have any sort of chemicals or pesticides. They just use organic pesticides. And also that organic isn't healthier. There's no conclusive evidence that indicates organic is healthier. And I think on a different show, we also indicated that organic doesn't actually taste better. If you're curious about those topics, have a listen. On that show, I also recommended Michael Pollan's The Omnivore's Dilemma. which shows how complicated all of these things can be, and I would recommend that, just because it was very, very well done. Now, also note, I'm not saying organic food is bad, or that there aren't some organic farms that are far better than typical farms. But what I am calling into question are the key claims that many people use to justify organic, and what one can expect on average. From the Pedia of Wiki, back in 1939, Lord Northburn coined the term organic farming in his book, Look to the Land, out of his conception of the, quote, the farm as organism, to describe a holistic, ecologically balanced approach to farming, in contrast to what he called chemical farming, which relied on imported fertility and cannot be self-sufficient nor an organic whole. I would like to picture him saying, I don't know if that's true. Now, over time, more and more people became interested about their food and established connections with farmers, which actually became harder to do, also over time. Silent Spring in the 60s and the 70s, and that environmental movement it spurned, increased the popularity of organic, and while some wanted to do more about their food, the food production system was becoming less accessible. Wonder if that's related. According to a post on Lifehacker, USDA Organic, or Certified Organic, is a seal on your food, and that means the item must have an ingredients list and the contents should be 95% or more certified organic, which itself means free of synthetic additives like pesticides, chemical fertilizers, and dyes, and must not be processed using industrial solvents, irrigation, or genetic engineering. Often there are also stipulations about livestock and how they are fed, housed, and bred, as well as how farmlands have chemical inputs or not. The percentage part is similar to in Canada, by the way. 95% is what we require for our little labels. Now, certified organic in the States isn't the only label you'll see. You may also see 100% organic, which means all the ingredients must meet the guidelines above, or made with organic, which means that ingredients must contain 70% or more organic ingredients. The USDA seal cannot be used anywhere in the package, though, and the remaining 30% of the ingredients may not be foods or processed with additives on a special exclusion list. In Canada, if a product is between 70 and 95% organic, they're allowed to say they are that percentage of organic in terms of ingredients. However, they do not meet requirements to bear the certified logo. All the countries that have certified organic labels, they usually have some sort of percentage, which means you pass the threshold to label yourself organic. But what makes something organic is typically exactly what I labeled at the beginning, free of certain pesticides and other such things, synthetic pesticides. Different countries have different requirements, as well. What organic actually means in the broader sense, which is partly what the question was, it can depend and farm to farm. It doesn't actually mean there's no synthetic pesticides anywhere, because sometimes that can just get involved in the food production system. It also doesn't involve any sort of sense of scale of the situation. So it could be a small farm where there's a community and a family, or it could be huge agribusiness, because almost all the large agricultural companies have large organic farms as well. So really, organic means those things, but usually people care if something's organic because they think those things that I listed then lead to better outcomes. And that is the part that isn't quite certain. We'll look at environmental impacts next time, but to give us a glimpse of that, I thought I would just talk about something Cecil Adams on The Straight Dope said that outlined some of the trade-offs. And he was talking about how organic uses chemicals, just, organic chemicals, which are less strong, so often a greater amount has to be used. And then there's this quote: excess chemical use isn't the only or even the biggest farm problem we've got. Some people are more worried about soil erosion. One trend over the past couple decades has been no-till farming, which minimizes plowing in order to halt erosion. The trouble is, if you don't plow, you need to rely heavily on herbicides to control weeds. So what do? Swear off the weed killer, till your soil and risk having it wash away, or swear off plowing and heavy up on herbicides? Sure, some people claim they can farm organically and conserve soil at the same time, but it's not that easy. That will have to be some bait until next time we look more at the environmental impacts of organic farming.
It's very interesting because I never assumed there was much regulation of what the term organic meant. I thought people were just putting it on their foods, and they were kind of they could just say it because it was just a word. But it's interesting to learn that it really does mean something. Doesn't mean something that I personally care about, so I'm still not going to care when I see it at the grocery store. But it's good to know that it does count for something. It's
a good comment. Let me follow up that it does count for something supposedly.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's that many system checks of whether it actually does.
Okay.
So there's a regulation, but how enforced is the regulation? How many samples are they taking? And how much litigation is against those who violate it?
Well, there you have it. 3 segments about food labels. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're a regular listener, you know we do these mashup episodes every once in a while. And so I was thinking that I would throw the idea to listeners that if you have 3 TRC segments that you enjoyed and you think they'd fit into a theme, let us know about it. Maybe we'll use your idea and you can be a guest TRC DJ on a future show. Thanks for listening. The whole crew will be back with a brand new episode next week. Until then, think better to act better. Peace out, cuboids. Stay classy, not smart-assy. We'll talk to you next week.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at TRC_podcast.
Thanks.
So let's file that, producer man.
Filed.
Put a tack in.
Filed in file 13 drawer.
At the tune of a few bucks dollars. That's wrong.
Those are parents just trying to get a few bucks dollars.
Well, I mean, I know that the dude who cut the baby in two said, "I'll cut your baby in two," and then the woman said, "Fine, that's fine by me." And then the other woman was like, "Don't cut my baby in two." And he was like, "You are righteous. You can have the baby."
If you want to hear more religious parables as told by Adam, write in.